as we identify segments, the implications that can have for everything else that we do and how you turn that into creative and media strategy. An example that we'll show is something we did in the gardening space. Now, in the gardening space, most gardening companies are targeting the folks with a green thumb, the high users, the people that are in on a regular basis that consider themselves good at this. And what that means is there's a huge segment out there that's neglected, and that's the everybody else. And specifically, it's the people who don't think that they're good at gardening, but would like to have plants around. And when we think about the size of those segments, one is tiny, although they spend quite a bit, and the other is massive. And the massive neglected segment we viewed as an opportunity, which allowed us to make better use of our marketing dollars. Rather than having an environment where we had competing messages, we wanted to talk to people that rarely get spoken to, and we understood their psychology, which is frustration at not being good at this. Creative flowed naturally.
Prove it. What? They were gonna die anyway.
And this was a wildly successful campaign, talking to a neglected segment, powerful psychologically, and a great example of how you started with strategy, found your segment, and then talked to that audience using powerful psychological marketing. Another great example of this is in the healthcare space. Now, hospital systems are all selling the same basic stuff. Come to our hospital system for all of your medical needs, right? And so the challenge is everybody wants to sell everything. And so as a result, they show pictures of doctors and things like that. With one of the health systems that we had the opportunity to work with, one of Ascension Systems, we decided to have them focus on a key segment, the maternity segment. Now, we realized maternity was the first time most people take an active choice in selecting a healthcare system. Thus, it was a point of entry and an emotionally powerful area, an opportunity for us to connect with people, to be the place where babies come from.
Where do babies come from? It's complicated. My brother said I came from the zoo, but he just made that up. They got me from the shopping channel. Get out of here. The mailman brings the babies. One word? Osmosis. That's a big word for a little baby. They come from cyberspace, but it takes a whole lot of gigs. What's a gig? Hey, one question at a time. St. Vincent's where babies come from. Ugh, my brain hurts.
It's hard not to love little kids in TV spots. But what's remarkable about this was an investment in a long-term strategy and the outcomes. At the time we started this, St. Vincent's was number 6 out of 6 hospital systems in a region. Within 5 years, they were number 1 in the region overall. But here's the kicker. They became number 1 in every other subcategory of that hospital systems, including things unrelated from maternity, like cardio and cancer treatments because of the spillover effect. And it's a great example of segmentation and forming a long-term strategy to drive growth. So another fun example is in the refreshment category or drinks. So we were working with a large tea manufacturer, and they wanted to find a new segment. And we identified a group that was relatively untapped in this space. We wanted to bring them into the categories, people who like to work out on a regular basis. And we found that studying them, they had a ritual. After every workout, they would have a refreshing beverage. Sometimes those beverages were sodas, sometimes diet sodas, sometimes not. And a lot of times they were just coffee drinks, and sometimes very high calorie coffee drinks. So as we understood this neglected segment and the behavior behind them, they became relatively easy to communicate with. Introducing our product, iced tea, to that category allowed us to have ads like this one. We talk about some of the reasons that you'd prefer iced tea being a natural drink as opposed to some of the preservatives and say sodas. We could also target against the coffee segment and remind them that this is much better for you on a lot of levels than that high calorie frappe, and not to mention all the fat packed into it. So it was a neglected segment and one that often didn't show up because it wasn't one of the huge segments. With a tiny little bit of effort, they were able to make big inroads in this segment and make iced tea a drink of preference for a post-workout regimen. Great example of segmentation, finding hidden gems to grow market share as opposed to fighting against the large competitors of everybody trying to get the same target market to do something slightly different.
Yeah, and this is some work that we did for Alabama tourism, thinking about the travel market. Now, first, we talked about the importance of defining your market. Here, we're focusing on moms who often make destination travel decisions and recognizing that there's actually a lot of variation in the decisions that they're making and what they're seeking when they're looking to travel. So here we have these different segments that acknowledge different attitudes, psychology, and behavior. And we decided to focus on some priority segments here in the examples that we include. And that what we chose was looking at spring break Gina. Here she's going out to spring break with her kids. Got foodie Gina here, she wants to go out and explore the great food opportunities that are around. And here you could see the media, the messaging that was catered towards spring break Gina, right? So you've got the Gulf Shores, the Gulf Coast there. It's print ads, it's video, it's digital on your phone, designed for all these different things, specifically with the messaging around, here's a great spring break trip that you could do while the kids are out of school, and so on. And of course, we make sure to reach them when they're going to make those crucial spring break decisions, and we're going to reach them in the areas where they can choose to go towards Alabama for their spring break. Here's a foodie Gina case. The creative messaging this time is centered around food. And we've got a broad array of channels that we're focusing on, but we're highlighting all the great food opportunities that you could have by exploring around the state.
Before we get into this last piece of creative, two things to note. One, yes, there is overlap in these segments. These are not completely isolated segments. So sometimes you're talking to the same audience, you're just talking to their different drivers of motivation with different imagery at different places in time. The second is, and we don't spend a lot of time talking about this today because it's a huge topic, is the concept of trigger points, putting the right message in front of somebody at the right time. And that helps you balance that near-term and long-term marketing, the brand building, the creating preference with near-term activity. I'm ready to buy. How do I go ahead and do something about this? And so that right time, right place, and understanding the psychological drivers matters a lot. But the thing that most resonates is powerful creative things that are entertaining, that people want to consume, that will shape beliefs and behaviors. And your team did a great job with this one, David. This next spot, targeting the food Gina's, building Alabama up as an awesome food destination.
And now, what you've all been waiting for, the Alabama Food Eating Contest, right here. Are we ready? Drum roll, please. 3, 2, 1, eat! Oh, man. We don't have all day here.
Gotta stop and savor.
This video is from our webinar series, and you can check out intermarkgroup.com/webinar to watch the full series. We're a full-service advertising agency that embeds a layer of behavioral science in our creative. And you can check out the information below to learn more about us and to contact us to help you solve your marketing challenges.